It's been well documented that Kaurna people lived right across the different environments that occurred in Adelaide, so ranging from the hill space all the way down through the plains into the wetlands, and that was quite an essential relationship because different environments offered different food sources throughout different periods of time. Kaurna people were a riverine people. We settled all throughout the campsites along the riverways, all throughout Kaurna country, from Crystal Brook all the way down south to Cape Jervis. So you're talking about rivers that are flowing down from Mount Lofty Ranges all the way down to the coastline. And most of them, they're not huge like the Springa or the Fleurieu Peninsula. Most of them are like this. They're small little creek lines. And you look at that and you think, oh, well, what can you find in there? But a lot of the Kaurna diet really occurred around these settings and into the grasslands that surrounded the rivers. So we're talking things like yabbies. Yabbies were really common and essential part of the diet, and crustaceans that occurred within these. Approximately 75% of the Kaurna diet was herbaceous of origin. So we're talking the grains, we're talking the herbs, and we're talking those sarky. Because of where we're located on the Adelaide Plains, that was a regularly accessible food source. As we travel north and we travel east and we travel west, that starts to shift, and that diet arrangement tends towards more of a protein-based diet. But here in Adelaide, with the biodiversity hotspot of South Australia, we had access to these great food sources. The Kaurna people were known all throughout the region for their weaving abilities, but not weaving without a purpose, but weaving nets. And that played a major role within our creek systems and our river ecosystems. So catching birds through those woven nets was really important. It was both women's and men's business, so it's often a misconception that it was only women weaving nets, but it was both men and women's business. When I talk managed riverways, it's to slow down the riverways and create leaky, weir type situations where fish stock could be kept. It was a way to manage the paths of the fish, to ensure that you could place a trap in, and that trap would be almost guaranteed to have a fish move through that location because of the way you've structured that creek line. A lot of the places you find at an Aboriginal campsite were naturally a lot of sand had built up over time. It was because of dancing. So dancing was a really important part of Aboriginal culture. And so to have a campsite, it was important to have a dancing location or an area where you could sit on nice soft ground. And that would be where you were weaving or dancing. What you would do if you would burn this side, and then you would allow that side to develop over time and grow and upkeep, and you wouldn't manage that as severely. And so what that would do is it would create a natural barrier between where you're sleeping and staying and the animals, basically. So that occurred on a large scale across Kaurna country at a wider range. And then what you would also see is that areas where we didn't want animals to access, like regular campsites for food sources. So say we found a whole bunch of really fantastic ruby saltbush or quandong, something like that, and we didn't want animals to access it long term. You would start to develop the surrounding bushland in a way that you increase the uptake of large shrubs to reduce movements through that zone. And so that was how land was managed in terms of a large scale environment.